Yeah, g'day Canyoners, welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. Blowing a gale out there today, so I've come to this nice little sheltered gully, so hopefully you'll be able to hear me over the wind. Today I thought we'd go right back to basics and talk about what sort of checks you do before your abseil. I like the ABC method. It just gives you a few tips on what to look out for when you're abseiling. So ABC, A stands for anchor, B's for belt, C's for connector, D's for device or descender, E's for everything else, and F is when you stuff up and everything goes wrong. Okay, so A's for anchor. Everybody that abseils should be checking their anchor before they abseil. I don't care if you're an absolute beginner or a seasoned pro, it doesn't hurt to check. If you have no idea what you're doing, have a bit of a look. If something doesn't look right, ask. I'm always a big fan of people asking what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and that sort of thing. If you're out with someone that's setting up your abseils and they're getting the shits with you because you're asking questions, you're probably canyoning with the wrong people. We want to share knowledge and make the canyon experience a safer place. The more people that know what's going on, the more chance there is of picking up mistakes. Let's check my anchor. I've got a nice solid little tree here. Root system's pretty good. In typical Blue Mountains fashion, it's got a tape around it. It's a wrap 3, pull 1 method, which is probably your best practice. It means the friction on these wraps are actually taking the weight rather than the knot. So the knot's pretty much held loose. But I want to go all the way around the tape, make sure I'm inspecting it. Make sure it's not sun damaged, not hardened, not fraying, not cutting any way. Really important too, a lot of Blue Mountains canyons, the anchor goes around a rock or underneath a rock. Make sure you get all the way around, try and pull the bits around that you can't see so you can inspect the whole bit of tape. Okay, so that's my anchor. It's pretty good, nice and solid. If I wanted to, I could back it up. I could put my own sling across there with just a tiny little bit of slack in it. Everyone can abseil down on that. When I make sure the existing anchor's safe, I can remove my sling and then I can go. Okay, so B was for belt or harness. In the old days we used to say buckles because they didn't have self-locking buckles, and you used to make sure your buckles were doubled back and locked off. But belt for harness, make sure everything's nice and tight, make sure everything's tucked out of the rope, you haven't got any string or stuff hanging out. Rule of thumb, you should be able to slip your hand down the front of your harness, but once you make a fist, you shouldn't be able to pull it out. That means it's nice and tight. It's not going to slip down over your hips in case you go upside down. So now I'm at a point where I can connect to the rope. And C was connector or your carabiner. You want to make sure it's loaded in the right direction. So the strength of your carabiner is in the spine. You want to make sure it's not cross-loaded in any way. Really important if you're going over some of the tricky ledges we have here in the Blue Mountains. Sometimes as you're scrambling over, your beaner can get crossed up and the gate catches on your belay loop. Really important you double check that and make sure that it's in the right orientation. As I said, you want the spine taking all the weight. So D is your descender. You should be familiar with your descender before you head out in the wild. So I know how I'm supposed to have it hooked up. I can add the friction I need for the drop that I want. And I'm going to make sure that it's connected back into my carabiner. Now that might sound stupid, but I know of a very experienced canyoner who was having a bit of a chat while they was hooking up, put everyone through. I think it was in the old days when they were using whale tails, so he just hooked the rope up, didn't clip the device back on his carabiner, walked over the cliff, fell 5 metres, luckily into a deep pool, flat on his back. He just simply hadn't connected his device back to the carabiner. Really simple stuff like that goes wrong all the time. We need to make sure it doesn't. Okay, so E's everything else. I'm going to check I've got my helmet, I've got my whistle, my pack, I've got it isolated, or if I'm last, I've unisolated the strands. Everything else is right to go. And last of all, F. F's what happens when we stuff up and we get this wrong. Stay safe out there, guys, and I hope to catch you out there somewhere.